All right, welcome back down here to Chiefs Pit. Timmy, Mark, and Ritchie Petty. We've had some requests about some of our racing days when we're getting started, so we're going to kind of dive back into the late model racing and stuff. But we're going to go a little bit earlier than that because when Timmy, he actually ran a couple of races in what they called like a pure stock thing. But we all three cut our teeth driving down here at the local track at Caraway, and that's give us a lot of insight on how to build cars and how to race cars. Just give us a good education. What do you remember about your first driving experience down at Caraway, Tim?
Well, everybody kind of was behind it, showed up, whether it was a spectacle or whatever. And one of the first laps in the race, I get drilled pretty hard in the back and spun out, and from that day forward, I didn't think I could drive very good. Turns out a few years later, I found out a good friend of mine, Eddie Brown, he got to laughing about it and said that he was
the one that drilled you.
Yeah, he was just going to make sure. But I had no idea. I mean, it happened so quick. And we probably run it a couple times, but I remember going down there and testing too, and Wayne Robertson, Daddy, and I can't remember. There was some more other people that kind of high up in R.J. Reynolds, but
I think Ralph Seagraves come by.
I think he did too. I can't remember if he drove or not, but they all, because it was Biscoe's renter ride. Billy Biscoe.
Yeah,
and he, they all got in it and done laps, and it was, I don't know, I didn't really drive much because everybody else was.
But this was 1982, and probably May of '82, wasn't it? Yeah.
Man, you're telling me. I believe you. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I just remember that. But my first race, and I'll let Mark get into his, but I was all excited. We was down there at Caraway and qualified in the race, and I was all thinking I was going to do pretty good. Well, they told me, take it easy starting out and all that. But as soon as they dropped that green flag, I forgot all about it, and I was trying to pass her on the outside. I made about 3 laps, and I run right into the wall. So
pretty similar.
Oh, yeah. The school
Caraway Speedway, the sons of Maurice Petty will make their debut, with Ritchie in the driver's seat and Mark rooting him on. It's the beginning of a new generation of racing Pettys, and not surprisingly, it's also a dream fulfilled. Their father knew that they were destined for this. After all, racing is a Petty way of life. But still, come Saturday night, Maurice admits he'll be a little bit nervous.
I've not got my adrenaline up because, we're just out here practicing. It ain't like that I had never been around when Kyle started and around when Richard started and Lee, he had drove. So I'm not really that pumped up right now, but I guarantee you when they throw the green flag, I'll be pumped up.
So look out, Richard and Kyle, with Papa building the engines and Petty blood flowing through their veins. Ritchie and Mark are chasing after your
What do you remember about your first race there, Mark?
I remember I had no clue what I was doing. I probably never did the whole time. But like I said, we went down there and ran the track and
did some tests.
Tested, practiced all day. And then we go back down there and qualified pretty decent, I think. But they started the race, and I couldn't get out of my own way. And we ran about 8 or 9 laps, and there wasn't nobody around me, nobody in front of me, nobody behind me. And they throwed the caution. I looked in my mirror, and here come Bobby Labonte, Dennis Sutton, Mike Skinner, the lap man, like 9 or 10 laps.
They was getting it.
So I knew then when we started back, I had to do a little bit. I kept up with them then, but it wasn't long after that I wrecked, I think. It didn't take me long.
But you was doing all you could do the first go around.
Well, I thought it was. But, I mean, them boys, here they come. They're about lap man. We just started. So
it's a different world.
Yeah. But imagine that's who your first race. That's the guys he's racing with, 3 legends.
Now, I'm going to go back a little further. When we all was a little bit younger, you know how people build their little baseball fields or their basketball courts and get out there and play. Us three built a racetrack behind Daddy's house.
Level Dega.
Yeah, it was a 1/10 of a mile dirt track. It was kind of a little bit like Wilkesboro because it had an up on the front stretch and the back stretch was downhill. And it had a little bit of banking up in 1 and 2. But we raced go-karts there for years.
I swear all the racing we ever did, I had more fun back there on that go-kart track than I did anywhere.
And even Daddy, he got him a go-kart, and he would race with us.
Yep.
So it was a good times.
And he would also take his old truck out there.
Yeah, it was big enough you could run it. It
was a single lane though for a truck.
Yeah. But Daddy was a good race car driver, and people don't realize it. He just didn't stay with it a lot. But we didn't realize at the time how good he was, and he'd get out there in that truck and go. But we had some good times out there. I remember that one time it had rained, and I think he was out there trying to fix it with the scrape because it had some ruts, and I was being a little smart aleck. I went out there, was going backwards with it, and I hit one of them ruts, and that's the first time I ever flipped anything because that barrel rolled that old. Because the go-kart we had at the time had a roll cage, and I barrel rolled that thing. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Now Mark, he run into a tree one time, split his head wide open on one of them go-karts. So,
Yeah.
That wasn't a good day.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now as we went on, the late modeling, we got a little bit more experience, so we got a little bit better. We could run up front a little bit, and our first shops was up here in the original Petty shops, and we worked out of there for 4 or 5 years, didn't we?
You know, that corner shop where everybody got their start, right?
And I'll tell you what, the neat thing about that garage was grandfather lived right there outside the door, so we spent time with him every day, spent time with Daddy every day. Our late model days we just didn't realize how much fun we was really having, but we had some good times.
It's almost like every step you ever took up, you were always trying to go further ahead in your career and go to the next level in racing. But some of the best times we had was in the very grassroots of it. I mean, that's my explanation.
Oh, I think it is, and we just.
The blessing was we was all together.
And you didn't realize, I mean, you were trying to prove yourself. I mean, we all were. I mean, and whether it was mechanical ability, driving ability, or just being a good businessman. I mean, that's the lessons we all took out of it.
Yeah, we did the best we could and
what we had.
With what we had, and we was fortunate to have had a lot, I'm sure. But,
and that was the neat thing too, was they made us learn how to work on the cars up there. You had a little trouble. Oh, tough luck. Fix it.
or the truck, or whatever, the trailer. You know, you had to maintain all that stuff. It was like you said, like grandfather used to say, if you can't find something to do in racing, you ain't doing it right, because there was always something to do.
Yeah, there was never no work. There was always work to be done.
I think I was 18 years old when I ran my first race. How you was 17?
17.
Yeah. So we got started at a pretty fairly.
Well, I know that's how I learned to drive a manual transmission, was on that
race car. Yeah.
I mean, we'd had that old Cushman where you had
three
on the tree.
Well, plus the tractor.
Yeah.
The tractor helped us a lot.
I learned in a dump truck. That's where I learned to run the 3-speed.
The coal truck.
Yep. But we had some good old times out at Caraway, and then we started moving around to different racetracks. Run over at the Ace, and you run up there at Tri-County a few times, and
really the late model days, if you think about it,
Myrtle Beach a lot. We run there a lot.
Yeah,
that kind of set us up to start doing engine work for people.
Yep.
It helped.
Yep.
I mean, because we ended up doing a lot of stuff before we even got the next level. We were doing a lot of we put our dyno in. We were the only ones that had it within a 50 or 100 mile radius of here. So a lot of the engine builders would come here and run their stuff, and then they eventually bought their own dynos. They seen the benefit of it. But all I'm saying is that kind of helped us to get to the engine building business to where we're at today.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, any more stories you want to share with?
Oh, we could go forever.
Well,
on the late model deal.
Yeah. Anything?
Late model racing was
other than the chicken box.
Humbling experience for sure.
Oh yeah, and I think that's where a lot of racing's missing today. Is we come to it at a great time with a lot of good drivers that really appreciated racing. You had a lot of good fans that would come out, because we'd have some of them races. You'd have 4,000 or 5,000 people in the stands.
Oh, them was big. There's big races.
So it was. We had some good times, but
especially them end of the year races where they'd have 80 or 90 cars come to Caraway and try to make that race.
Yeah, it was some good times, and we raced against a lot of good drivers. So that taught us a lot and made us a lot better drivers as we went on.
And a lot of those drivers that went through down there at Caraway was ended up being cup drivers.
Oh yeah, we had
good Bush.
Bobby Labonte and Mike Skinner, Dennis Setzer, and Jimmy Hensley would come in there and race against us sometimes.
Sam Martin, them back in the day.
They'd come in there with that Romeo
Joe
Biscoe.
Yeah.
So we had some good teachers. Let's call them that. Some good teachers.
And everybody always enjoyed going out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was a good place to go.
We had a good time.
Kept us out of trouble, I think.
Well, they still down there racing this day, as far as I know.
Oh yeah. Good place. Well, hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll get back with you. Check out our online store. We got some cool t-shirts for sale. Like and subscribe, and stay with us.
Thank you.
See you next time.